Hello everyone. Do you guys hear me? Someone please confirm me on this thing? Okay, awesome. Yeah. So good evening everyone, or good morning, good afternoon, from whichever places you have been attending. And thank you so much for taking time to join my session. So let me share my screen first. Okay. So you guys see my screen? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Cool. Uh, So I am Kalyan Prasad. Today we are going to talk about resampling time series with the power of Python and Pandas. So before we jump into the actual content, let me quickly talk about myself. So this is me. I am Kalyan Prasad. I am self-taught data scientist and analytics manager. And I also love involving in tech communities and help communities as possible as I can do from my end. So currently, I run a Python community in Hyderabad. I'm a core member of Hyderabad Python user group and also the organizing chapter and core member of PyConf Hyderabad. So PyConf Hyderabad is a regional conference, year conference, which happens in every year for Python developers and other open source stuff people. And my areas of interest lies in artificial intelligence and fintech. No, it's not just about the buzzwords. Sorry. Now, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. So my areas of interest lies in artificial intelligence and fintech. It's not just about the buzzwords which are floating on the internet. It's something I'm passionate about with these technologies, where how with the help of these technologies, how industries are transforming their businesses and operations. So here is the agenda for today's talk. We'll start with an introduction to time series. Then we'll talk about some of the key elements in time series. And then we'll talk about what is resampling and how to use resample in pandas. And then followed by, I'll show you some of the practical stuff with the help of resampling techniques and some useful time series operation with the help of Python and pandas. So just in case if you are not already aware of all these concepts, then definitely you're in for a treat. Just in case if you are already know this concept, I believe a small recap won't be hurting you. Okay. So let's start with some caveats. So time series analysis is particularly complex and controversial field. So in my opinion, there are no magic recipes. I think more or still with any kind of analysis, you have to be really careful with your assumptions. I'll give some quick framework as we move ahead, but you really need to read more when you want to do a real analysis. Let's say if you wanted to do a real time series analysis at your work or at your academic level to make a real conclusions or real arguments, this is not going to get you there in my 30 or 45 minutes of talk. For that reason, domain knowledge is really important. Let's say if you are trying to figure out how your process is working over time, so the more content you have, the more understanding of your system, the better inform your models or the better your models can perform. So I believe nobody can fix a time series issues without a domain knowledge. Now, what is time series? So there are many definitions of a time series out of which indicate same meaning in a different way. The straightforward definition is sequential data order matters. So time series is a sequence of observation taken sequentially in time. So when forecasting time series data, the main aim is to estimate how sequence of observations will continue in future. Observations are typically collected at regular intervals, such as every minute, every hour, or daily, weekly, monthly. For example, if you are talking about weather data, we may receive weather updates for every hour or every 10 minutes. So depending upon the source of the generation, you may have different frequencies at which data is collected. Advancement in machine learning have increased the value of time series because there are so many prediction problems that involve time series component. And companies apply machine learning to time series data to make informed business decision and do forecasting, etc. So time series helps us to forecast or predict the future values of a critical field which has a potential business value in the industry. For example, predicting the health condition of a person or predicting the result of a sport. So it is everywhere. I'll justify this statement with a couple of examples in my next slide. So if you are a retail company, you may have your monthly sales data. Or if your company is listed where you publish your quarterly or annual revenue data. Likewise, you also have a hourly weather data and wind speed data. If your IoT sensors installed in all the industrial devices that generate the data continuously. And you also see the fluctuation of a stock prices changing over a period of time. And energy forecasting is another use case where we are trying to understand the user demand for the electricity and accordingly manage your production. In case if we are overproducing, we may want to sell it in an open market. So these are some of the typical use cases in time series. I believe that I have justified my statement that it is everywhere. Now, let's understand key elements. So when we are talking about the time series, the first thing we need to understand the key element, then we can perform certain actions on that. So the data may have a seasonality, the data may have a trend, the data may also have a cyclic behavior, or the data can be a random fluctuations, or the data can be a stationary. So I'll quickly touch upon all these concepts, but again, I'm not going into in detail about each of these concepts because which goes beyond the scope of this talk. So seasonality. So seasonality pattern occurs when there is a time series is affected by a seasonal factors, that is a year of a month or a month week of the day. For example, during a holiday season, you may see the Amazon and Walmart have a huge sales that generate some seasonality in data. So seasonality is always a fixed time period. Trends. A trend exists when there is a long-term increase or a decrease in the data. So it does not have to be linear. So we'll see trend. We often see the trend as a changing direction where it might go from an increasing trend to decreasing trend. For example, take the scenario of a COVID, where for some companies you may see they have a huge revenues. For them, you will see an increasing trend, and because of this lockdown and all, where for certain companies like restaurants and outlets, for them you see a decreasing trend. Cy- Cyclic behavior. So a cyclic behavior occurs when the data exhibit that the rises and falls that are not of a fixed frequency. So these fluctuations are usually happen due to economic conditions and often related to business cycle. And one of the important point which I would like to highlight here is most of the people get confused with the seasonality and cyclic behavior, but they are really quite different in nature. So if the frequency is not of a fixed time period, then it is a cyclic pattern. If frequency is unchanging and associated with some aspect of a calendar, then it is a cyclic behavior. And when it comes to random fluctuation, these are the fluctuation which are a result of unforeseen and unpredictable forces. For example, these fluctuations are happen due to floods, strikes, etc. And lastly, a stationary time series is the one whose properties do not depend on the time at which time series is observed. So a stationary data is a data where we see the mean value is a constant and the standard deviation value will be constant, and we do not see any seasonality or a trend patterns in the data. So first two are really important when we are working on a stationary data. For a third point, we can use certain techniques where we can convert the data from a non-stationary to a stationary. So here are a couple of the examples on the concept which we discussed earlier. So if you look at the On top left graph, the US housing sales price, which shows a strong seasonality as well as a strong cyclic behavior with a period of 6 to 10 years. And if you see, there is no apparent trend in this data. And if you look at the US Treasury bill contract, it shows the result of a Chicago capital market for the Chicago trading market for the result of 100 consecutive trading days. So there is no seasonality in this data, but obviously a downward trend. So possibly if we had a much longer series here, we could see this downward trend is actually part of a long cycle, but here we are viewing only for 100 days, it appears to be a trend. And if you look at the Australian quarterly electricity production, you see there is a strong trend with a strong seasonality, and there is no evidence of a cyclic pattern in this example. And lastly, if you look at the daily changes in Google closing stock price, it shows that there is no seasonality, there is no trend, and there is no cyclic behavior. So these are a random fluctuation which does not appear to be more predictable, and no strong such pattern that would really help for developing a forecasting model in these cases. So these are some of the typical use cases on this thing. Now let's come to our main point. What is resampling? So resampling is to convert our time series data into different frequencies. So depending upon our requirement of analysis requirement, we can convert the data into different frequencies for our analysis. So there are two types of a resampling techniques. One is a upsampling and other one is a downsampling. So upsampling means if you want to increase the frequency of samples from minutes to seconds, then it is a upsampling. If you want to decrease the frequency of samples from week to months, then it is a downsampling. Now you might be thinking why we actually need to resample the data. Why not we can actually work on as it is. So there are the two important reasons which we may be interested in resampling our time series data. The first one is a problem framing and other one is a future engineering. On a problem framing side, we can see that resampling may be required if your data is not available at the same frequency where you want to make predictions. For example, let's say you have a 20 years of historical prices of S&P 500 index data, and where your boss has requested you to present the data in a monthly frequency instead of a daily. This is where the resample comes in handy. So you can convert the daily prices data into a monthly frequencies and make your predictions. On a problem framing, on a future engineering side, resampling can be required to provide an additional structure or insight into the learning problem for supervised learning models. So a future engineering perspective may use observation and set of observations on both time scales and more in developing a model. Now, Pandas is a savior because it was created by a Wes McKinney to provide a flexible and efficient tool to work on a financial data. Therefore, it is a really a great choice to work on a time series data. And resampling our time series data is very easy, super easy. Not only easy, it is very convenient. I'll be showing you in a couple of minutes practically. And the best part of Pandas is it offers multiple time frequencies where we can select our data and present as per our requirement. So here are a couple of methods of a resample frequency method. So if you want to present in a weekly, we need to give it W, or if you want to present in monthly, we need to just apply M. So the list is actually quite huge. So I was not able to include each and every method in my slide, but however, you can find everything in the Pandas official documentation. And one thing do remember here is it is not necessary to remember each and every frequency method because our brain is quite very tiny. So it is very difficult to memorize each and everything. So whenever you have a requirement, just go through the documentation, pick it up and do your actions accordingly. And finally, so far you have been hearing a lot of theory stuff on time series and resampling. Now we'll be seeing practically what we have learned so far. So what we'll be doing is we'll first start with loading our pandas time series data and pandas time series data into a pandas data from NASDAQ, and then we'll convert our data column into a pandas data type. Then we'll choose a resampling method and different frequencies and apply that to our data frame. And we'll also show you some of the useful time series operations like rolling, moving, average, and shifting. Okay, let me jump to my Jupyter notebook now. Okay. So I believe you guys see my notebook now. Yes, right? Awesome. So as usual, we'll import the necessary suspects first. So I've imported matplotlib, pandas, cbon, and the request. So now we are extracting the data. So we'll be using the NASDAQ index as an example for this demonstration purpose. So we'll be retrieving all this data from Financial Modeling Prep API, which is a source for our data. So in our case, we'll be retrieving all the NASDAQ historical prices for the last few years. So to retrieve our data, we need to have an API key. So I have saved my API key in a variable called demo, and I have also created a variable called ETFs, where I'm calling my request.get function, and in that, where I'm passing my URL here. So, and also I'm giving an argument called NDX, which extracts the NASDAQ historical prices data. And I have also applied a string here in order to pass the values to the variables in the URL. So once I execute this, you will see a huge list here containing the historical prices of a NASDAQ for that particular of NASDAQ historical prices. So what I have done is I have picked this key historical here and past year. Now we can see the NASDAQ historical prices over a period of time. So once I execute this, we can see a list and each elements in the list are NASDAQ historical prices starting from the recent date. So you can see it is a 26/1/2021, which is a recent date. Okay, now in order to convert this to a pandas data frame, I want to get rid of this list first. So for better data manipulation, so what I've done is I've created a loop here to go through the each of the element in this list, and then it will add to the dictionary. By that, once we add that to a dictionary, we can convert into a pandas data frame with the help of dict method here. So if you see here, I'm extracting the date here because I want to keep that. And also our dictionary contains a key, and the item will contain all the information here. So what we are doing is we are creating a nested dictionary ES, which contains the information of a NASDAQ for that particular day. So once I execute this, you can see for this particular date, we have all this information like date, open, high, low, close. So for each day, we have all this information. I hope this makes sense. And now we are converting to our pandas data frame by calling my dict method, and I'm also passing here my dictionary. So once I execute this, we got a pandas data frame for NASDAQ time series data. So until now, we are managed to create a pandas data frame. Now we are good to proceed to apply our resampling techniques on our data frame. So before we proceed for a resampling techniques, we can see that our date is a non-null object here. So if you see here, the date is a non-null object, which indicates that it is a string. So I want to convert this to a pandas data frame. Sorry, I want to convert this to a datetime object. Why? I'll tell you. So there are possibly many ways to convert that to a datetime object. So the simplest way is I'm calling the pd.datetime function where I'm passing my date column here. So what this will do is this will reformat the date column into a datetime format. And so once I execute this info again, now you can see the date is a non-null object, which is a datetime index now. So for any sort of a time resampling, we need to have a date time index. So what I'm doing is I am setting my date as a date time index. Now, once I execute this, now my date is a date time index followed by other columns. Okay. So now we are good to proceed and apply our resampling techniques. So what I am doing is, so here I created a variable called ETF monthly price where I'm calling my data frame. And for most of this, so I'm selecting here adjusted close price column. So you'll be seeing the same, I'll be taking this column for the rest of my presentation because which is recent close price. However, you can pick any column for your data analysis stuff. So you can explore with high, low, close, volume, whatever maybe. But for this purpose, I'm taking the adjusted close column here. So, and here I'm applying my resample method and also my frequency as a monthly. So where we'll get a monthly prices. And remember, for any sort of a resampling, there is a need of some aggregation method to give some sort of result. So that's the reason here I'm applying a mean function. So once I execute this, we'll get a mean prices values for different months. So for March, it is a 4198, for February, it is 4129. Likewise, I also executed the resample yearly frequency. Now you see for 2016 it is somewhere 4589. For 2021 it is somewhere 13042. So there is a huge increase in price. And this is also under use case where I'm using a BQ. BQ is nothing but the business quarter, which is nothing but a quarter end for that particular period. So you can see the quarter end values of a mean prices for the adjusted close. Now you might be thinking that is there any way where we can do resample for multiple columns? Yes, we can do resample on our entire data frame instead of a single series. So what I mean by that, we can use resample techniques and you apply multiple aggregation methods. So the aggregation method accepts the map of columns and the aggregate function that we want to return on that column. So what I mean by that is here, if you see this example here, I'm calling my data frame resampling by weekly, and here I'm giving my aggregation function. So for adjusted close column, I want to have a mean value. For a high column, I want to have a max value. For low column, I want to have a minimum value. And for volume, I want to have a sum. So once I execute this for adjusted close, we got a mean value here, and for high, this is a maximum value for this particular period, and this is the minimum value for this particular period, and this is the sum of the volume total traded on this particular day. So far we have done a resample on our data with the multiple frequencies, and all of that just using a single line of a Python code. I believe it's really awesome, right? And also, there is also a possible way where we can also create a custom functions on resample. So what I mean by that is, let's say I want to create a I want to get a first instance period of that particular day. So what I'm doing is I'm creating the function here, first day, where I'm passing an entry. So I'm returning that entry with a zero index, which is nothing but the first index value. So here, take my data frame and resample it by year and apply my own kind of a time series function instead of a different aggregation function. So here I'm passing my own time series function, which is the first day. Once I execute this, this will give you the result of a sample entry for this particular period. But remember, this is not often used in building a real-time world applications because most of the times we already have a built-in functions available. But just keep in mind that this is also a possible way. Okay, so far we have see a lot of resample techniques. Now let's see some visualization on these resamples. So here I am plotting my adjusted close price here. So now you see how my adjusted close prices were broken into a different period of a time. So from 2016 to 2021, how there is a fluctuation of a price over a period. And likewise, you can also see my volume, how my volume has been traded over a period of time from 16 to 21. And you can also apply this with the help of resample. So here again, see I'm resampling it by year and giving my aggregation function and plotting. You can see how the increase of a price for registered close price. So 2016 the price is quite low, and from 17 to 18, 19 it's been gradually there is a huge spike. And you can also give a certain period to plot. For example, see here I'm resampling it by monthly, and I'm plotting where I'm selecting a period from January 2020 to November 2020. So once I execute, see, you see how the prices have a fluctuations in a different month. So for February it is somewhere around 85, and for January it is somewhere around 85, and if you see on February it is somewhere reaching to 9,000. Again, there is a fluctuation in March, and again there is a spike in April, May, likewise. So these plots really help to make while these plots really help to help while we are building a forecasting models, because this will definitely help on our data analysis part, especially on a time series stuff. And this is also a similar example quarterly, where instead of a monthly, here I have selected a particular period from 16 to 20. You can see how on a particular delay, how the values have fluctuated on particular quarter, on particular year, and how there is increase on a certain year, and which quarter there was a dip, and which quarter it has been increased like that. And this is also at the yearly hand prints. Here, what I've done is I have added some extra matplotlib properties here, because, and also if you see here, all of these plots I've done with a single line of code, but here again I have added some of the matplotlib properties because to show my graph more elegant. So always you can use your matplotlib skills to showcase your graph of, uh, mm, as per your requirement. So, and next what we have is we have some of the time series useful functions. So we'll start with rolling. So rolling is very useful function in time series data. So rolling means nothing but creating a rolling window with a specified size where we can perform certain calculation on that. So what I mean by that is, here I'm selecting my data frame and register close price column, and I'm selecting my 10 rows, first 10 rows. So if you see here, I'm applying my rolling function, and where I'm giving my window size as 5, and here I'm executing. So what happens is, once here my window size is 5, so the aggregation will start from the fifth row. So if you see here, it is a fifth row, which is 28 to 2016. The mean value for this is 4141. So this value is actually the mean value for the first 5 rows of the original data. And if you look at the sixth row, which is 6 3 2016, the value is 4162. This value is the mean value for the second to sixth rows of the original data. So it really plays an important role, especially when we are doing a time series forecasting stuff. And also, one of the important in time series forecasting is moving average. So moving averages are a simple and common type of a function that helps to smoothen our curve on time series forecasting. So calculating a moving average means involves creating a new time series data where there is average of a raw observation into the original time series. So here, if you look at this example, I'm calling my data frame, and I'm also calling my rolling function where I'm giving a window size equal to 7, which is nothing but I'm calculating a moving averages weekly on adjusted close price. So once I plot this, so you can see the green line indicates the moving average, and the blue line indicates the adjusted close price. So you can see how there is a rise and fall of a prices here. And however, if you look at this curve looks a bit rough here. So I took the same example here again, where I'm giving my moving window size is 30, which is nothing but I'm calculating moving average on monthly. So once I execute this, so you can see how the curve looks so smooth here. So this curve really helps for the people who are investing and monitoring the movements of a stock market. So this curve really helped them to make their own trading, build their own trading strategies and wise decisions. So it really plays an important role. So in the moving average curve plays really an important role on a time series forecasting. And finally, what we have is shifting time data. So time series data analysis may require to shift data points to make a comparison. So depending upon the task, we can shift the data points or an index. So if I want to shift a down one row, so I'll just use my data frame and call the shift function. So once I execute this, so for particular one row, you will see all the NaN values here. So, and likewise, if I want to up one row or else down one row, I use as a negative indexing here. So basically, shifting time data is exclusively used to compute the differences over time. So it is also one of the useful function which plays a key role in a time series data. So yeah, so these are some of the great references if you want to explore more on a time series forecasting. And thank you. I think it's time to take time seriously. In case if you have any feedback or if you want to talk to me anything on that, so these are my social media handles. Feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to take questions if you have anything for me. So do let me know. Please feel free to unmute yourself and ask me any questions if you have anything, or else you can also type it in the chat. I'll be happy to answer your questions. Any questions? Yes, I have recorded this video. Yes, you will definitely get that. Yes, yes, yes. I'll be sharing the notebook as well. But however, I'll hide my API key because it is bit confidential. You can get one API key because I'll give you a source that where you can grab your API key and play with the notebook. So, any suggestions for beginners in what sense? You mean suggestions on what sense? I didn't get you, Pish. Uh, how to learn data science? I mean, so I can give you multiple answers here, but simplest way is you need to passionate about data science if you want to really learn data science, because internet will really confuse you most of the times, but you need to be focused if you want to learn a data science. Like in a data science although there are many fields, so you need to figure out on which field you want to pitch in or you want to explore. Let's say if you want to be a data analyst, you need to be pretty good at data analysis skills, especially databases or data manipulation of data wrangling and all the stuff, so that you can crack a data analysis job. Let's say if you want to be a exclusive machine learning engineer, so you need to be you need to be good at algorithms, and you need to be good at data pipelines, understanding how deployment works in machine learning models and all. So it's all depends upon the case to case. I mean, so you need to figure out on which way you are. So, and let me tell you my story. I didn't. I learned everything through internet because we have a plenty resources in internet. So, so you can. Most of the times, I learned through some of the great YouTube channels. If you are interested, do reach me personally. I'll share you some of the things, or else you can also tag me on Slack. I'll help you out. Great, good resources about time series I have included here. So these are some of the great references if you want to explore time series, because these are completely hands-on stuff and very in detail about time series. So do refer these books, and the last book, Forecasting Principle, it is freely available on internet, so you can explore that. But these, I think, you need to buy it, or maybe you need to search somewhere in the internet. Could you share your journey? Yeah, I mean, my journey is, as I mentioned. So, if you ask me 3 years ago, I didn't know anything about technology because I'm a commerce and finance background guy. I spent most of my work on investment banking and some business analysis stuff, where I used to work mostly on Excel spreadsheets. So beyond that, I didn't know, but somehow I realized that I can do beyond Excel. From there, where my data science journey started. So I started learning data science. So I started learning programming. I started learning machine learning, and I passionately involved in communities. And I have I've spoken in different conferences from national to international level from last year. So I have given talks in big conferences in last year, and also yesterday I have given a talk in different conferences. So the more you involve in community, the more you involve with people. So that's how you learn and grow. It's not about just you sitting and doing coding. That will definitely not help in order to grow in a career. So you need to make a good networking. You need to connect with the people who are good at expertise, so learn from them and try to involve in communities, try to participate in communities, and that's how you can learn. So that's how my journey has been shaped into a data science. So there is a, and also I don't have any traditional background, so it's not required that you need to have a formal computer science background in order to get into a data science stuff. So anyone can. There are many people, if you see, where they come from different backgrounds and they are doing excellent in data science and artificial intelligence fields. When they are doing so, why not you and I can do? That's what I can say. ML yeah, some good resources for learning about time series analysis or ML in general. There is a channel called AI Engineering in YouTube, so you need to check out that. So they have the channel has really amazing stuff on time series as well as in ML. Of course, you can also check Chris Naik as well. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's all I see questions. And thank you so much for taking time and listening my talk. Okay, let me stop sharing my screen.